So in this video, we'll be learning about compound words, binomials and collocations. Now let's first start with compound words. What does the word compound mean? Just like in chemistry, you might have heard the word compound, it means the joining together of two things. Similarly, in English, a compound word is a word that is formed from two separate words that have evolved to sort of go together naturally. So let's take a look at the forms of compound words that we have. First, we have the closed form. Now, in the closed form, the words are not separated by a space. Let's take an example. We have words like fire, fly, right? Here, fire is one word and fly is another word. But over time, we've used this word together to refer to the insect, the firefly, right? The one that has lights at the end. So here, the word firefly is an example of a closed form of a compound word. Now, another example could be crossroads. So sometimes you might have heard the word crossroads, which is the point at which many things meet, basically. So here, the two words are cross and roads. You would have noticed that neither of these two words have a space in between the two words. So it is in the closed form. Very good. Now we move on to the second form of compound words that we have. They're called the hyphenated form. Now the hyphenated form have a hyphen in between the two words that are used together. So an example of such a type of compound word is, let's say, whenever you're referring to the age of a person, maybe you have 6-year-old. So you can see here we have three words, in fact, 1, 2, and 3. And we've joined them together using the hyphens. Similarly, you can have another example such as mass produced, right? So here again, you can see that I have two words and they are joined together using a hyphen. So these are also examples of compound words because you're using them together, or the meaning is a single unit. Now the third form of compound word that we have is the open form. Now the open form has a space in between the two words. For example, we have words like the post office. Now I never mention the post office as only post or only office. I always use them together, right? So I use post and office. However, it's not separated by a hyphen and neither is it placed together like in the closed form. Therefore, words like this or compound words that have a space in between are called the open form compound words. Another example could be full moon, right? You might have seen this word. So the full moon does not have a hyphen in between and it is not stuck together like the closed form. It is in the open form. So make sure that you understand where compound words are and how you have to place them. Is it in the closed form? Is it in the hyphenated form? Will it have a hyphen in between the two words? Or whether it will be in the open form with a space in between the two words. Now, that much was for what compound words are. But what if you want to form a plural of a compound word? Now, it's simple when you have words like firefly, right? Because here, according to the general rules of how to form plurals, we know that if it ends with a Y, it turns to IES, right? So here this would become fireflies. So that's okay because it's in the closed form. I know it is acting as a single unit. I will not put an S in between the fires fly, right? I will put an S at the end. So that was simple. And here in this example where you have the hyphenated form as well for the word 6-year-old, if I want the plural form, it would become 6-year-olds, right? It would not be 6 years old, something like that. So, and even here we have the word mass produced. So this word will not take the plural form because here we are referring to an adjective. But this, for example, is a noun. 6-year-olds was a noun, therefore I form the plural. But what if you have a different type of word? Let's take an example. If you have the compound word mother-in-law. Now this is also a compound word, right? So how would you form the plural form of mother-in-law? Would you place an S at the end of law or would you place an S at the end of mother? Think about it for a second. Whenever you have compound words like this, you have to think about what the main word in this compound word is. Which of the words is basically the most significant word or the most important word in the word itself. So here, laws is simply something describing, the mother. So it is not the most significant term. The most significant word here is mother. Therefore, if mother is the most important word, I have to put the S or pluralize mother and not laws. So if I want the plural form of mother-in-law, I would say mothers-in-law, not mother-in-laws. So be careful with this. Let's take another example to understand this. Maybe we have the word attorney general, right? So here we have attorney general. The more important word is attorney. No, the most important word is general, because attorney is simply describing the word general here. The general is the most important word. So the general will take an S, it will become attorney generals. So make sure when you want to form the plural or even the possessive, right, of a compound word, then you have to make sure you understand which is the more important word or significant word and attach the pluralized form to that word. Now, we've looked at how to form plurals. What about possessive? Now, in order to form a possessive, you know that normal words would take an apostrophe and an S, right? Depending on whether it has an S at the end or doesn't have an S, we already took a look at the rules. So let's take an example of firefly, for example. If you want to say that something, it belongs to the firefly to show possession of the firefly, I would simply place an apostrophe and an S, fireflies. The firefly's lights were very bright. The firefly's wings were very small, or any such sentence to show possession, I would place an apostrophe and an S. What would I do if the word were like this? Mother-in-law. What should you do? So, in case I want to show possession of the mother-in-law, my mother-in-laws. So, here it would come at the end. So, this would become mother-in-law's house. This is my mother-in-law's house. So, you can see here, I have placed it at the end of the word. I have not placed it at the end of mother. However, when I formed the plural form, I needed to look at the more significant word, right? And the more significant word was mother. Therefore, I placed the S after mother. So, mothers-in-law, but here it becomes mother-in-law's house. So, make sure you understand what you're forming. If you want to form the plural, you have to look at the more important word. If you're looking at possession, you have to take a look at where the S or the possession apostrophe S or the S has to be placed to show the pluralized, to show the possessive form. So let's take a look at attorney general again. Where would you put a change or an apostrophe S to show possession? The attorney general would become attorney generals with an apostrophe at the end of the word, again similar to mother-in-law's house. Okay, so we took a look at how we form plurals and possessive of compound words. Let's now take a look at something we call the suspended compounds. Now, the suspended compounds are basically compounds that seem very similar, but what happens is that because they form very similar compounds, you can sometimes leave the last part of one of the compound words out and mention it in the second word. Didn't understand? Let's take a look at an example. So, let's say we have the sentence, the first and second grade students are here, right? So, where do you think the compound words are? So, we have the word that forms like a unit. So, here the compound word that I can see is second grade students. This is the compound word that I have. So, second grade students, or maybe I can even consider this just this part, second grade, to form the adjective of the students. It's describing something about the noun, so it is an adjective. Second grade. What about this word here? Now, it's implied from the sentence that first is also referring to first grade students, right? So, these are actually the two compound words that I have. First grade students and second grade students. However, since I've already repeated this part, the grade students, in the second compound word, I can actually delete it just by placing a hyphen to show that it is connected to the other compound word. So these kinds of compound words that have one of the compound words missing the end because it is repeated in the next part are called suspended compounds. Make sure that if you want to form these suspended compounds, you have to make sure that it has the same ending. It cannot be that this part has a different ending and you have missed it out by placing a hyphen thinking, oh, it is a compound word, so is this, so I can just place a hyphen. No, it doesn't work that way. The ending of the first word has to be the same as the ending of the second word. Then only can you form these suspended compounds. So we looked at compound words. I hope you remember all of the rules and the different forms. Make sure that you use them properly. Now next we'll be looking at binomials.